Well, folks, thank you so much for joining in today in Canada and the US and around the world. Thanks for the increasing numbers of you who are tuning in. And keep those comments coming because it really is helpful as you give me some insights on what you think about the insights I'm trying to give you on behind the news, some of the main headlines that you won't see or hear about in mainstream media. Well, in Washington, D.C., which is where I've been for 2 days on meetings, last night we were planned to have a meeting with President Donald Trump. But I guess that Venezuela oil tanker and a few other little things got in the way of that. So we met with Senator Tom Cruise instead, and also Donald Trump's, their head of their faith office. That would be Paula White. Had a good meeting there. And all around good meetings. In Canada last night, the meetings weren't so positive for the opposition leader Pierre Poilievre as yet another Conservative member of Parliament walked the floor and joined the Liberals. For those of you in the United States, what that means is the Liberals are now only one seat away from having actually a majority government. They've got a minority government right now. One more seat. That's a pretty big plum for anybody sitting over there with the Conservatives or maybe with the Socialist NDPs to be the one that would walk the floor and betray your constituents, but still give the Liberals their majority. There's going to be a plum coming for them down the line. Probably gives a good time to reflect on this business about walking the floor. I know it happens from time to time. It seems to be more prevalent. What you are saying to your citizens who elected you is, I know you elected me under this party, but I'm going to the other one. And there's no question that there's lots of inducements to do that. It's talked about quietly, but it does happen. So that has shifted things considerably for the Conservatives. Anyway, those were the meetings in Washington were not about those particular issues. We also saw at the same time, just before that happened, if you've been following this in Canada, Canada's become the first democracy to actually cancel out of its constitution the exemptions on freedom of speech that go with religious liberty. So those things that can be said if you deeply believe them and you can show that it's part of your religious belief have always been protected in democracies, in Western democracies. So Prime Minister Carney, the first really, to knock that out, to take that away. So all of you pastors out there who think that silence is golden, you just lost some gold because that's a very major hit. And we'll see if that causes any reaction. The situation, too, with this particular clause being taken out, the Liberals are very bold, and they say, well, it's not going to hurt anybody because people hardly ever use the religious exemption. Well, that's right. They don't use it because it's there. People know it will protect you, and so it hasn't been used. We'll see what starts to happen, especially as it was just a few weeks ago. A very senior Liberal elected person actually pointed out some verses in the Bible and said, this is hate literature. So not feeling too good about, the church in general being quiet about this, not saying anything. We did try and alert a lot of people. We're going to see where that goes. The other announcement for the Liberals that's a positive is they have announced that there's the third quarter numbers are showing a trade surplus. Now, you need to drill down and look at where those surpluses were, in what kind of goods. So, crude oil surpluses, crude oil being shipped to the U.S., that has resulted in, to help out with a trade surplus. But keep in mind, crude oil is going there, not refined, not being refined and supplying millions more dollars and jobs in Canada, but being shipped in raw form across the border. Livestock exports were up, believe it or not, going to the U.S. But again, this is live livestock, so the value-added component of processing that livestock in Canada lost, again, because it's increasing costs. Manufacturing costs more in Canada, doing business costs more, hiring costs more, and so raw products are going more and more to the U.S. That gives tends to tip a balance in favor. It looks like a trade surplus. It doesn't mean the economy is doing better. You're just trading more, shipping more out. And the other product that was shipped out unprocessed, interesting enough, was gold. It's called unwrought gold. So gold not being refined in Canada is pretty major job loss and refining loss there. So keep an eye when you hear a certain number. There's usually something behind it that may not be as positive as it might want to sound. In British Columbia, there's increasing talk that the Premier of British Columbia, the Socialist NDP Premier Eby, might be looking to call an election because if you've been following the news in Canada, the provincial Conservative Party there, not the federal, the provincial party just booted out their leader, as Tories love to do. I don't know if Conservatives and Conservative voters are ever going to wake up. Mainstream media is culturally Marxist. They actually despise people who have conservative principles and points of view. And the reason they do is because being culturally Marxist, media actually think that if you have a conservative fiscal standpoint or a conservative social standpoint, that you're going to hurt society. And so they more viciously attack conservatives. That's basically why. And it'll happen if the BC Conservatives get a new leader, which of course they have to now. There's some people that are jockeying for position, kind of testing the water. Aaron Gunn, who's a member of Parliament, and he's out from British Columbia. He is apparently thinking about it, as are some others. I'm just going to say to Conservative voters everywhere, be prepared. Whoever you get for a new leader, there'll be a little bump, a little honeymoon, and then the media will start that slow grinding down process again. Day after day after day, they'll say they don't like the leader might sound mean, or they don't like the way he or she dresses, but it'll be that whittling away process, which is why in BC they want to get an election going quickly, before a new leader can really take hold. Let's see what happens. Mainly what they're worried about in British Columbia is a federal or the BC Supreme Court, this isn't Canada Supreme Court, but a BC Supreme Court judge ruled that the Cowichan Band, the First Nation band, actually has ownership rights to over 400 acres in the city of Richmond, a huge chunk of a city that's been there and building up for 150 years. They now say that a certain tribe that used to fish there for a while and camp in the summertime, it was a summer camp, they actually have ownership rights. That has brought a chill on real estate right across Richmond. In the real estate, in the banking industry, people can't go and get second mortgages because they don't know what's going to be happening. It's a crazy problem that's been allowed to happen. We'll see if there is a level of sanity when this hits the Supreme Court of Canada, which it needs to, or if the Supreme Court judges in Canada will also upend everything we know about contract law and about property rights, and that will really send Canada into a tailspin. So unfortunately, Canada is going to be reeling under the effect of that until it is settled in court. You're also seeing inflation continuing to go up because, as I've been saying, anytime any government, this is nonpartisan, any government continues to spend borrowed money, that increases the cost of money, and that means the price of goods go up. And that's why every time you see a politician, I don't care what stripe, make an announcement about some new spending, if they're running a deficit, that means they're spending on borrowed money that's going to drive the cost of everything up. That's called inflation. Keep that in mind. We're going to have inflation in the beef markets. People are projecting for at least another 2 years, as the cost of all the inputs that go into raising beef, we're talking fertilizer, we're talking the feed, we're talking everything that goes in, is also affected by inflation. So it's just a vicious spiral upwards. But the other thing that's going up is the demand for beef is not dropping. It's been proven now not to be unhealthy, as some people have tried to suggest, and more people actually going on the carnivore diet. So look for the price of beef, certainly in Canada and somewhat in the US, to continue to go up. Donald Trump is tossing out another tempting lure for Canadians. He's introduced a gold approach to getting a visa, whatever you might want to call it, or a certain card or designation. Anyway, it's going to put you on a fast track to getting a green card. You come up with $1 million, you're going to get on that fast track. Of course, they're going to check you out, make sure you're a responsible citizen. You're going to be bringing some investment. But let's keep an eye on this, because, of course, the media says all Canadians hate Americans, which is not true. The mainstream media in Canada despises Americans, but most Canadians don't have that same level of hatred. And we're going to see now, are Canadians, in fact, maybe want to go to the U.S. let's keep an eye on where those $1 million fast tracks go that President Trump has put on the table. The Economist magazine, which of course is read worldwide, has gone into a bit of a panic. They've said, and they usually deal with economical stuff, but they're in a big panic because they said these far right, and sound the scary background music there, something like this. Ooh, far right parties are gaining in Europe. As a matter of fact, they say that the UK Reform Party is ahead in the polls. They say in Germany there's a party called the Alternative for Germany. Now they're saying in France that the National Rally Party, these parties are all ahead, and they're ahead on a couple of things. They want taxes down. They want immigration normalized. They don't like wide open immigration, and they want crime dealt with. And that's supposed to be somehow scary. I hope Prime Minister Starmer pays a price in the UK for saying that these parties are citizens who want things like peace on the streets, peaceful streets, and serious violent criminals dealt with, and taxes lowered, and less government involvement in your life. That's somehow scary. And Prime Minister Starmer says the essence of who we are as Britons is now at threat because people want a little less government, a little lower taxes, and a little less crime. Let's watch where those go. You'll remember in Italy, as media, of course, clamors on these type of things because they are, again, culturally Marxist. They want governments that are run by a few strong people. They want a low economy, and they think punishing people for violent crime is bad. So Giorgia Meloni, you will remember her when her party was on the cusp of winning the election in Italy. The media was doing its usual thing, striking fear, terror, and panic in the hearts of the citizens of Italy. The citizens of Italy finally woke up and said, you know what, we think the media is a little goofy on this stuff, and they're culturally Marxist, and we're not, so they voted her in. And even the Economist magazine now saying, you know what, this Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, that we were giving such a hard time saying she was going to be a right-wing nutcase, she's actually running the country pretty well. And very interesting to see the admission of that, and good for Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni there in Italy. The top 3 economies in the world, again, this is according to the Economist magazine, top 3 economies: Portugal number 1, and Ireland number 2, Israel number 3. They have some things in common. Those governments believe in low taxes, so that invites investment. They believe in keeping their spending under control. That means they can keep taxes down, and they don't like rampant crime on the streets. And guess what? The 3 top economies in the world. So you get to choose which you like. Or you can go to the extreme end. A news item just out of Portland in the United States, a case where a black homeless person attacked and stabbed a white homeless person. In a very serious incident. There's more of these going on the streets in the U.S. And the stabber, the attacker with the knife, attacking an unarmed guy without a knife, was let off in court because it was determined when the court was proceeding that the white guy had called the black guy the N-word, and the jury and the judge said, you know what, that was wrong to do. That guy had a right to stab him because he called him the N-word, and the guy walked. So if you think that's a good thing and a good direction in criminal justice theory, well, hang on, it'll get a lot worse unless these judges, who are, again, appointed by left-leaning governments that get elected, are coming up with some pretty wild rulings. Let's just keep an eye on that. In the area of entertainment, too, we're seeing it interesting. Remember last week, you may recall, I talked about the movie Zootopia and how it was going to do really well. And it's Zootopia 2. The last one was done in 2016. Zootopia, it's kind of a fun, animated, good cop, bad cop kind of a story. And now Zootopia 2 is expected to do very well. But it got surpassed just this last week in the theaters by quite a bit. And some of you folks, you're going to have to talk to your kids or grandkids about this. There's a exciting new movie, if you want to call it exciting. This is its number 2 version. Also, it came out, the first one 2 years ago, and it's called Five Nights at Freddy's. Now, Freddy's in the movie is a pizzeria. And of all places where you wouldn't expect horror and really terrifying stuff going on, you wouldn't think it's a pizzeria. I've eaten some pizza that was horrifying, but I've never seen one where kids were disappearing. But that's what happens at Freddy's. So Five Nights at Freddy's #2, and this is the first one that came out 2 years ago, hugely successful. People thought it would be $30 million the first weekend. It surpassed $63 million, and it surpassed Zootopia. And that's Zootopia was shown in a lot more theaters, and still the revenues at Five Nights at Freddy's surpassed it. So horror dominating family kind of movies, quite interesting, and we'll look if that's a trend that's going to continue. A trend that has also been continuing and now is being rewarded. If some of you may or may not be aware, there's something called the Prison Fellowship. This was started many years ago, and it's individuals, and it's a ministry really that reaches into prisons and halfway houses across, not just across the United States, but also into the prisons in South America. And they reach out with faith-based messages relative to recovery programs and how you can get out of jail and stay out of jail through changing your life and having a deep faith experience. And that particular organization just got $5 million from the Lilly Foundation, and that foundation was impressed because they said this is kind of changing the face of what we often see for people who are coming out of jail. Usually their recidivism rates, repeat rates are very high, but if people have been through this particular program, Prison Fellowship, they're winding up in larger numbers. It's not perfect, but in larger numbers, staying out of jail. Folks, a lot of things going on today. Stay tuned. I'll give you the weekend edition tomorrow. Thanks very much for tuning in.